Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 99. In the wake of England's injury crisis, the autumn international squad has been announced. And once again, Danny Cipriani is missing. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. We've postponed the episode for a couple of days because obviously it's a big day today. About an hour ago, the England's autumn international squad was announced, so we've got lots to talk about there, among other things. And of course, as always, I'm joined by Dan. Hi, mate.
Hi, mate. I've actually had a really good week. It's been amazing. I had a really bit of good luck. My missus has lost her voice, so. You know, you hear about these things happening, but you never dream that it would actually happen to you. So it's been a lovely few days.
Awesome.
I'm feeling refreshed. Although I must admit, the last hour or so, my mood has dulled somewhat.
Yeah. We should probably just get straight into it, shouldn't we?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, squad's been announced. Obviously, England are in a little bit of crisis at the moment, despite people's opinions on form. But actually, just there's an injury crisis. We all know about it, and they've really been hit by what happened to Saracens at the weekend. Billy's out, Mako's out, Nikasekwe is out. Although I'm not convinced he'd have been in the 23 necessarily. Who else is out? There's
you've got Rob Shaw who's out.
Rob Shaw is gone, yeah. Obviously, there's the ones that have been out for some time and remain out, like JJ and Anthony Watson. I think I read somewhere that England currently have 15 players out. Nathan Hughes is out, so that's an interesting one. So he's banned. He had I think it was a 4-week ban or a 3-week ban, which would have meant he'd have missed one game. Ban. Would have meant it was a 6-week ban. They reduced it to 4. It would have meant he'd lost one game. And when he left the hearing, he tweeted "fucking joke" or something. And so they reversed it back to the full 6 weeks, which means he misses 3 games, which means, rightly so, he's not involved in this squad and shouldn't be called up. Because that's just idiotic, you know.
It is. I don't think he ever expected, people should be allowed their own opinion, but you've got to use a bit of common sense with it. I don't.
You can have an opinion, but you can't publicly share that opinion and not expect ramifications.
No, exactly. It was stupid, but you know, it is what it is. The injury side of things, it's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the Premiership. It's the nature of the English model, and it's something I probably want to touch on later. Sort of looking at the sort of English RFU model, perhaps compared to the sort of Irish central contract model, because there definitely is, noticeable differences.
True, but as you say, we'll come on to that. The reality is that these injuries exist, and England have to be able to deal with it. They have the largest pool of players to pick from in the world, so of the top flight teams at least. So this is something that we're built for. So to kind of turning to the squad, I mean, we put out a tweet yesterday, it was less of a prediction, it was a bit of a prediction, a bit of a wish list. We knew there were certain people in that squad that probably weren't going to get selected, and we pretty much were spot on with regards to who that was. We just if you haven't seen it, we had Owen Farrell at 10. We had Manu Tuilagi at 12, which meant that you didn't have that sort of playmaking centre, 10-12 partnership, which Eddie Jones says is the reason why Alex Goode isn't involved, because he doesn't want another playmaker, obviously therefore creating that space for Alex Goode, so we had him at 15. And we actually had Kovacic at 6, someone you've been calling for some time. It turns out, Kovacic and Cipriani, neither one of them's been included in the squad. Cipriani, obviously the biggest shock, although
neither Alex Goode is. He's not either.
Well, yeah, I mean Alex Goode, he's not in the squad. and he never has been under Eddie Jones, I think, or at least since like the first game or something. And yeah, it's one that we can't deal with all of them. I don't understand it. It's another example of something we'll come on to about Eddie Jones not sharing, I think, enough with the fans. But yeah, so he wasn't included. But Cipriani, obviously the big shocker. You know, he's been playing really well at the moment. He's been described as a highlights reel. We touched on this last week. We said, you know, if he's a highlights reel who creates highlights every single week, is that not something you want? At least coming off your bench, you know, that as an option. At least in the wider squad as an option, but apparently not. So there's clearly more to that. So again, I think as fans, we want more of an explanation. I think for Eddie Jones to say he's not been selected on form makes no sense. You know, Eddie Jones was there at the weekend. He watched him play. He watched him put in I don't know if he was man of the match, but he was in contention for it. So I don't know what else he wants from him. And to me, that suggests there's definitely more to it than form, which is what we're being told.
Well, it's what's quite interesting is we've actually, and I need to apologise to this man because he's messaged us a couple of times. We've got a chat from on our Facebook page. Wes Tont messaged us. He's a sort of Gloucester and England fan, and he messaged saying, an issue about sort of he doesn't think Manu Tuilagi will be at 12, and he made a sort of fairly strong argument for it. And Manu could well be considered at 13, but he also said about the Cipriani thing. And initially I thought, no, I don't agree. But the more I think about it, the more I think he's got a point here, is saying, is there an RFU factor here? So now, sort of hear me out a bit here. So it's the RFU maybe given Eddie some directives. And I don't necessarily mean day to day. So what's Eddie Jones known as? Eddie Jones is known as a man who can identify sort of really young talent early. He did it with the likes of George Gregan, George Smith, even did it with sort of Marcus Smith here. And he continues to do this apprentice thing. He's done it with Ted Hill, who's sort of a back row, who's included as an apprentice this time round.
Yeah.
So was that part of his remit when they did, you know, when they took him on as coach? You know, we want you to develop young players. Not necessarily a bad thing. But could there also then, if that's the case, could part of the remit be about the image of England rugby? I don't think it was necessarily in a bad place because I think Stuart Lancaster did a good job. But could that image be, you know, we don't want the controversy with England rugby. We don't want, you know, players who are going out causing trouble, the likes of like after the 2011 World Cup. So could that really be an issue on the Cipriani factor? I'm starting to think there must be something else because it makes no sense.
No, but I don't know. I feel like if there was a decision that was taken, firstly, Eddie Jones doesn't strike me as the sort of person that would accept that in his role.
But if that's and also job description.
But Tuilagi's included.
Yeah, but Tuilagi hasn't caused any dramas
for a little while. But it wasn't that long ago that he was doing the exact same things, getting in trouble with the police.
No, I agree.
So I don't know. I don't think you can say. I don't think the RFU has said, you know, you can't select anyone that's had any trouble with the police or the media in the last 12 months. Do you know? I'm not. I don't know. I'm not convinced. I hear what you're saying, but
I see what you're saying. I just when Wes sort of mentioned it, I actually thought to myself that could be a really good point. Or it's not necessarily an RFU thing. Could it be an Eddie thing saying, this is exactly how I want my squad, because it is incomprehensible some of the people he's left out of this squad compared to some of the people he's put in. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, the reason for this podcast is we're saying we believe England will win the World Cup. I still believe that. I truly do. I just think Eddie's making it a lot harder. I don't get his decisions. I don't understand why you brought in an apprentice, for example, someone like Ted Hill, who's a back row for Worcester. Now, I looked this guy up. This guy looks like he could be a superstar, but he's not there yet. Why would you include somebody with a World Cup so soon as a back row who's realistically not going to play when you have the likes of Don Armand, Matt Kovacic?
I don't think there's any intention of playing him. So I think when you're selected as an apprentice, you're not selected because there's any expectation of actually being involved. You're there for the sole purpose of the experience.
But is there value for that at this stage?
It's a 36-man squad, and last autumn it was a 34-man squad. So you could argue that he's adding in an extra couple of players, and one of them's an apprentice. So you take him out, and it's a 35-man squad. It's still kind of within the kind of realms of the numbers that he's would usually select for an autumn international series. So I think with those ones, I'm less concerned. If he was selecting them in key positions with a view to using them as apprentice players, then it would be different. But I kind of get what he's doing. It's building for the future. I don't hate it. Just quickly though, going back to what you were saying about, is it sort of a cultural thing that means that Danny Cipriani's not involved? I feel like if it was, it would be something that the RFU would want him to tell people. He would want the media to know. We don't stand for it, because that's a strong statement. I don't think it's something
a strong
message.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd hide behind. I don't think you would say, "Oh, we're not selecting him on form," if actually the reason for not selecting him is, look, he might be playing brilliantly, but we just don't stand for that kind of behaviour. That is the stance of England rugby, and that's not going to change. And that's how we want things to be going forward. We would all then say, okay, yeah, it's disappointing, it's frustrating, but we get it, and the players know. And if they go out and do that stuff, they've only got themselves to blame. So that's why I don't think that is the answer. And I think as well, he'd probably find himself under a lot of pressure then, as because of other players that arguments could be made for their behaviour. But I don't know what it is. I've not that I'm going to hear anything back, but I have put a bit of a call out to him, just saying, look, tickets to go and watch England play at Twickenham. You take the New Zealand game. I'm pretty sure there are none left. So people are spending this money. They're up to like 195 quid a pop. Obviously, if you buy them from some of the touts and things, you're looking at silly money. But even at RFU prices, 195 quid to go and watch England play rugby at Twickenham. I feel like the fans are at least owed an explanation that makes sense. I think for Eddie Jones to say he's not been selected on form, it's mugging us off. Because it's saying, you're all watching him play week in, week out. You all think he's great. I know something different. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm just going to tell you you're wrong.
And that's something that annoys me, because I want to understand how he justifies. Because let's make no mistake about it. He has not picked for best players for this squad. Like, there are players in a lot of positions who are better players
based on
who have not been picked.
But this is it. Based on our understanding of the game, our understanding of how players are performing. If he's got some... we don't want, obviously he's not going to share tactics and things and risk giving away any of England's, plans for the autumn matches. But I do think when it's quite clear, and Cipriani's a prime case, it's in the media all the time. I think the fans are owed an explanation. I don't think it's okay to say, I'm the boss and it's my decision and none of you have got any right to know what my thought process is, because actually we do. Because it's the fans that provide the money to the RFU that enables the RFU to pay Eddie Jones. I'm frustrated that we don't understand why. I'm frustrated that we even have to have these conversations where we're going, for fuck's sake, what? Why? Like, it makes no sense. Yeah. Maybe it does make sense. Well, then explain yourself.
And
that said, one thing that I have thought quite a lot about recently is George Ford is in great form, and we've obviously mentioned it.
He is,
and so this conversation kind of does put a bit of a cloud over him, which isn't really fair. I'm not disappointed that George Ford is likely to be England's starting 10, because I think he is playing great rugby at the moment. And actually, with Cipriani involved, I wouldn't even have him as the starting 10. I'd move Farrell to 10 with Ford involved and Cipriani out. I've actually got Ford at 10 and Farrell at 12. So. It's not the end of the world. The frustration purely comes down to Eddie Jones' kind of lack of respect for the fans. They want to understand what's going on, and you're making it very difficult. And when you stand in front of the cameras and you grin at the cameras and you call everyone mate, and then when you get asked these questions, you say, I've already answered your question. Well, you haven't. You've told us that you haven't selected him on form, where the rest of us, unless there's something we don't know about rugby that only you do, are going, well, he is in form. He's in really good form. So don't be disrespectful. Explain yourself properly. You know, if there's something that we don't know, then tell us that thing so that we can understand it and so that we can get behind the team instead of having this constant sort of assumption that he's got it wrong.
It's a bit Jose Mourinho-esque at times.
Yeah.
Almost an arrogance that you owe no explanation. And like you were saying with the ticket prices. Now, one thing I want to be careful about, because we get quite a few messages saying things like Eddie Jones has lost it. Eddie Jones. I think it's far too soon to say that. We are forgetting, and we're forgetting quickly. Yeah, it's been a bad year, and let's make no mistakes about that. It's been a terrible year, and some of the decisions we've found baffling. But up until then, there were 2 brilliant years. I think it's too soon to sort of completely throw him to the wolves just yet. Let's see what comes from these autumn internationals.
Yeah, 100%.
Bearing in mind how difficult some of these matches will be. I mean, South Africa beat New Zealand in New Zealand, should have beaten New Zealand at home. South Africa are a very good team, although they will be slightly understrengthened against us.
Yeah, and ironically, Eddie Jones has just put out well, I don't know if he's just put it out, but he was interviewed recently in which he was quoted as saying it's pretty simple to beat the Springboks. So
yeah,
maybe
agree to disagree.
Hopefully it's another example of something that he knows that we don't. Because if that, I mean, I suppose in his defence, if you look at both in fact the first 2 games against the Springboks, when England got off to the rapid starts and should have controlled those games. You know, in that first game, England scored 4 tries or something, didn't they, in the first 20 minutes and then still managed to lose. So maybe that's what he's saying is, look, actually, if you get your game plan right, it is, simple's the wrong word to use, but, you know, it is, we're more than capable of beating the Springboks. But you've got to be efficient for 80 minutes to ensure that you don't then give up that. But yeah. I think as well, let's not forget, whilst he may choose not to answer to us as the fans, he clearly does have people that he is answering to who have the ability to get rid of him if they choose. So if he was kind of going off, going rogue and making decisions that we all are sitting here going, what the fuck are you doing? There will be people holding him to account. That, you know, so and this is in support of saying let's not, you know, throw him to the wolves just yet. You know, England's still a great setup, and actually, this is where we should probably talk about the squad instead of just the few players, because, you know, yes, Billy's out, yes, Mako's out, you know, yes, Cipriani's not selected. Who else is? Yes, Rob Shaw's out. Rob Shaw's a good example of one where we've said, you know, we feel like there's time for a change there. Yeah, he's a workhorse. He makes a lot of tackles, but he doesn't do a lot of. He doesn't gain much in the way of yardage. So I think probably the best way to do this. There's no point just reading out the squad. People can look it up for themselves. We're gonna pick our 23 from the squad that he has selected.
So. We can do that. Actually, sorry, one thing just before we go on to that, but I want to say we get quite a few messages saying along the lines of Eddie Jones has lost it. Eddie Jones, you know, it's rubbish. Guys, if you're going to message that, fair enough, and that's your opinion, and then, you know, we'll admit ourselves, there's things that baffled us. At least justify it. Don't just say, I don't like the squad, Eddie Jones has lost it. Say exactly why you think he's lost it. Say, and come up with a theory. So it's just saying he should have picked these players, should have picked these. Say who he should have picked them ahead of. Like, this will be interesting for us because we want to understand why you think he's completely lost the plot. Yeah. And also maybe come up with a theory why you think he's picking the teams he is picking, rather than just saying Eddie Jones has lost it because I prefer this squad. Because, you know, that's what we're saying is we would prefer other squads, but it's actually something we've probably been guilty of. But we are trying to also look at perhaps why is he picking, you know, some players ahead of others. What, you know, like he was saying with Don Armand, he thinks Don Armand plays too far out wide. Do we agree with that? Not necessarily. Don Armand can be a heavy traffic ball carrier, but that's at least what Eddie Jones is justifying it as. You know, it's all very well everyone sort of saying, you know, this guy should be in the squad. So Cipriani, for example, if you think it should be on 100% should be there, who do you think should miss out? And justify that, because it's all very well saying George Ford shouldn't be there, but George Ford has had a great season and he's done some great stuff for Leicester. So, guys, if you are going to write in, and we really like it when you do write in, and we like hearing your opinion, but please, let us know why you're saying that he's lost it, or why you think this player definitely should be there and who shouldn't be there instead.
Well said.
Thank you.
So yeah, okay. So with that in mind, then looking at this squad, so looking at this wider squad of 36 men, we need to pick our 23 that we think will go up against South Africa, and we're not. Eddie Jones will be looking at this as on a game by game basis. What team does he want for South Africa? What team does he want for New Zealand? And there may be changes with those factors in mind. We're just going to look at it as what do we think is the best 23 from this squad. So I think the front row picks itself, given what's going on, with Joe Marler having retired and Mako out. Kyle Sinclair Hepburn, I think, comes in for Mako.
Yeah.
Hartley, we know, is back. He is a co-captain.
I don't like that.
Come on to that in a minute. So I think he starts, and we've talked a lot about that. His leadership, I think, is going to be key. Even if he's only on the field for half an hour. Hepburn, Hartley, and Sinclair, I think, are the starting front row. Despite all the talk about how England are really thin in the back row, I don't think it's that. I don't think we're that thick. Even with all the injuries, I think we've still got quite a lot. This was actually one that was quite difficult to choose from, and we've gone with Itoje and Laws in the second row, both of whom can play in the back row. You've got Curry at 7, who we believe has kind of cemented the 7 shirt, at least for now. 8 obviously is a problem with Billy out and Nathan Hughes out, because we know.
Who do you think he goes for? Do you think he goes for Morgan or Zach Mercer? I quite like Ben Morgan being back involved, actually.
I think he'll go Morgan, because I think he's made it quite clear that
I agree.
That's the kind of player he likes. And I think Mercer will be on the bench to offer something different if necessary. He likes a big ball carrying number 8, and there aren't that many of them. With Billy and Nathan unavailable, Morgan's possibly the only other one. So I think he goes Morgan at 8, and therefore 6, I suspect, as much as anything else, because obviously it was a big thing about, bringing Shields over. I suspect he goes Shields, but obviously you got Underhill.
Shields has been playing pretty physical in the last few games.
So I think he'll go Brad Shields at 6, Curry 7, Morgan 8, to complete the starting.
So we've gone Hepburn, Hartley, Sinclair, Itoje Laws, Shields, Curry, and Morgan.
That's right. Yeah. And then the replacements for them would be Moon, who's one of the new call-ups as a replacement for Hepburn. Jamie George, obviously, is Dylan Hartley's replacement, and Harry Williams for Carl Sinclair. So that would be the replacement front row.
Ben Moon, I think, is a very safe pair of hands. Yeah.
Then George Cruz covering the second row. Again, we don't need flankers cover in the back. Sorry, we don't need flanker cover on the bench because you've got Itoje and Laws who can both go into the back row. But I would have Mercer on the bench, just to give an option. Mercer's a very different player. He's still physical, but he's more of a Sam Simmons, I guess.
He's brilliant. I love Mercer.
So I think it would be the right call to have him on the bench, and then I'd have Kerr. Well, no. So then we move on to the backs. We've talked about this. I mean, scrum half options are probably a little bit limited based on numbers.
So you've got Wigglesworth, Kerr, and Youngs. Now, here's the thing. I think the best 2 are Kerr and Youngs, with bearing in mind Robson's injured. But Wigglesworth does control the game very well. When we beat South Africa in that final test, we played a lot more controlled game. Is Wigglesworth potentially in that match day 23? I think he might be.
I'm going to say no, because I just think Eddie Jones is not he likes to talk about changing things up and giving people opportunities and trying different things out. But actually, he time and time again, he goes back to the tried and tested formula. And so, therefore, I think he'll go Young's care.
So you're thinking, okay, I'm happy to sit with that. Okay, so we've got Young's at 9.
So I think Young's at 9. I think he'll stick with despite us saying we wanted Farrell at 10 and then changing things up a bit in the backs, I think he'll go with Ford at 10, Farrell at 12. I think Tuilagi. So you got Tuilagi, and I suspect, even though I have, you're a fan, I've kind of said I don't think he should be involved anymore. But Henry Slade, who's great for clubs, seems to struggle for country.
So the issue I have is one of the major things we say is we're not picking the best players, and we're having to go at Eddie for that. At the moment, Slade is one of the best players. I think he should be involved. I would start Tuilagi at 13 and have Slade on the bench.
See, I've got exactly the same thing, but I don't know if he'll do it that way round. I wonder whether he'll bring Tuilagi on as an impact player.
Yeah, possibly.
And start Slade on the bench, potentially even with a view to moving Farrell to 10, and then having the option to bring Tuilagi on at 12 or 13, with Slade being the one that can move. I'm not sure which way around he'll go with that, but something in that. So you got, and then on the wings, I'm going with May and Noel on the wings, with Daly at the back. I know he's taking Brown. I think that's how it's going. Yeah, he's taking Brown out there. Well, not out there. It's their home games. Brown's in the squad, and we usually get this one wrong because he seems to love Mike Brown. But I do think it's. I don't know. I feel like it's easy for us to say Brown's had his day, but if that was the case, then why have him in the squad? So it's a difficult one. But based on what happened in South Africa, Eddie seemed to think that Elliot Daly was his 15 for the World Cup. It looked that way.
I still don't dislike that. I don't think Elliot Daly's made the position his own, but I think if you're going to go for him and stick with him, because I think he's such an amazing, brilliant player. But actually, I think he can grow into that position more and more. And I think Elliot Daly can be an unbelievable 15. So I hope Elliot Daly is 15. And I
think he will be. And then, so May and Noel on the wings. But obviously, Chris Ashton's back. So I've got him on the bench.
Chris Ashton's back. Courtney Singer's playing really well.
Cokanasiga, Nathan Earl, they're both involved, so potentials. You've got Lazowski, who's obviously involved,
Lazowski's played really well, yeah.
Who's a potential. So it's a difficult one to decide which way he's going to go. But that's...
If we're saying Youngs and then Ford Farrell, and are we going to say Tuilagi at 13?
Tuilagi at 13.
So Youngs, Ford Farrell, Tuilagi, May and Noel on the wings, and Daly at fullback. So then we've got three subs for the back. So you've got Danny Kerr,
obviously. Henry Slade.
And then Henry Slade.
And we're saying... I feel like he goes Ashton because he wants to give him a chance. He seems to really want Ashton.
And Ashton, do you know what? Ashton, the way he played in the top 14 last year, the way he's been playing, I get. It's the first game, a game too soon. Well, yeah. I believe Ashton will be back this weekend, won't he?
I think it might be, yeah. I mean, maybe maybe that's what we need to see. If does he go out and absolutely boss it? A bit of a question mark. We've got him in there because we're wondering, but we've mentioned Cokanasiga and Nathan Earl, both potential replacements there. Not that I necessarily feel like a winger is something that we need. I feel like there are options, with Daly, Noel, and May on the pitch. Yeah, no, I think you go wing. I think we'll go Ashton, but potentially replaceable by either Cokanasiga or Nathan Earl, and that will be our 23.
And you think Ben Teo's not in for a shout?
Well, Teo's he's not even back yet from an injury.
No, fair enough.
And as you mentioned to me earlier, Tuilagi, despite having had a lot less game time for England in the last few years, he's been playing a lot more in the Premiership recently and he's getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
So, and we know that Eddie wants Manu Tuilagi as part of his team. He's quoted he has been quoted as saying that Manu Tuilagi is a sort of player that can break a New Zealand defence and turn a game. So I think he sees him as quite an important part of his squad, which is why I think maybe he will start him. But again, that could be the other way around. So I think Tuilagi and Slade are potentially interchangeable, and then Ashton potentially interchangeable with one of the other two wingers. And other than that, I think we've got a squad there that we'd be fairly confident as things stand right now that that's the sort of direction Eddie would be going in.
I think so. There are some big people missing there. Like you're missing up front, you're missing Mako, who's a massive loss. You're missing Launchbury, who's a big loss. You're missing Billy, who's a huge loss. You're missing quite a few. You're missing Robson at 9. I'd love to have seen him involved.
Cipriani we've talked about. You're missing JJ, Anthony Watson.
Yeah, JJ Watson. I was talking more injury lines rather than selection here, but yeah, sort of JJ Watson. See, you're missing a lot of players for injury. There's other players who haven't been selected.
Sam Simmons,
obviously, through injury. I think that's such a shame because he was starting to look really, really good.
I would love to have seen him at 6.
Yeah, I would have. Actually.
Billy at 8, Simmons at 6, Curry at 7. Yeah, that's a back row I want to see.
Have you still got Curry ahead of Underhill? I think Underhill looks so good at the moment.
Well, I mean, he's an option. He's in the squad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a difficult one. I think that Curry has done really well in an England shirt at 7 in a position that we've struggled with for some time, and now we're able to talk about him being this out and out 7. So, I don't mind if he doesn't go that way. I don't mind if it's Underhill over Curry, but I suspect he'll go Curry. But we'll see.
Yeah. And the same as you, I don't mind either way.
I hope he doesn't do both because I don't think there's room on the bench. And I don't think it's needed. With Itoje and Laws in the second row, if he goes that way, you've got cover. Itoje's been playing 6 for Saracens a lot. We don't want it. Certainly we don't want to see him starting there. But we know he can cover it if things need to change. So
I think a few people are calling for him starting at 6. I want to see him start. Keep him in the row. He's a great player.
Yeah, I mean the only thing is that we've got Charlie Ewells. Is it Nick Stuke?
Elliot
Stuke. Okay. Sorry, that's right. Who are both second rows. We've got Cruz, Itoje, and Laws, who are all second rows, and you've got Rhodes, who plays flanker but has also played second row. So he's taken a lot of he's put a lot of second rows into the squad, which maybe suggests that he is thinking Itoje 6.
I don't get Elliot Stuke there. Is it Stuke or Stoke? I think it must be Stuke. Right? I don't understand why so yours I kind of get, but again, I would say Dave Atwood is a better player and playing better rugby. I don't really understand why you would not pick the better player. But
it's an interesting one. What do you know? Okay, talk to me about co-captains.
No, naughty. Very, very naughty, Eddie.
Come on. There's just there's no need for it.
We're a year from a World Cup. You want to know who your captain is. We before have criticised the Hartley thing. I think what we found out is when Hartley wasn't there, actually, we miss his leadership. So commit to a captain.
Yeah, and Owen Farrell is a very good vice-captain.
Yeah,
have a number of vice captains if you want, but you need that guy who is the captain. Co-captains is something you do when you go on summer tour to Argentina because the Lions are in New Zealand. It's not something you do for England Test matches. I think it's a bit of a joke to me. I'm not a fan of that at all. And also, I think what does that say to Dylan Hartley? You've been my captain for 2.5 years, but actually now you're just a co-captain.
I'm not sure Dylan Hartley will care that much.
Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't want co-captains.
No.
It was the only time I think a co-captain worked. I think it was for Scotland when I can't remember, but they had two scrum halves, and both of them were basically of equal players, and they were sort of standing out co-captain. That kind of worked because only one of them was going to play. So if one played, he was captain. If the other played, he was captain.
Yeah.
But not two people and even then, I wasn't really sure. I mean, my care factor was less because it wasn't with England. But
well, also
no,
co-captains, like you're calling them co-captains, but only one of them can make a decision. If they think different things, so what happens on the pitch?
Well, that's it. On the pitch, surely you've only got one captain.
Well, then you don't have co-captains; you have a captain. So
I agree.
The whole thing is a joke.
Go at me.
The whole thing is a joke, and I'm blaming you.
Yeah, it is my fault. No, I agree. I don't like
Eddie
it.
Jones. Yeah, what are you doing, co-captains? Please. Yeah, sorry, that's just thrown me. Where are we? What's next?
So the next thing I'm going to change. I'm just going to change sort of tack.
Oh,
completely.
actually, can I just say before you do change tack, just while we're still on this squad and obviously injuries, but also the Joe Marler retirement, just so that everyone knows, I have put a little word out to Joe. I have asked him if he fancies coming out of retirement until the 25th of November. Maybe have a little bit of a swan song. I know that a big part of him wanting to stop playing rugby for England was to do with all the travelling involved. So, actually,
well, spend time with his family.
But he's actually said it's because he doesn't like being away from them. So even still playing for Harlequins, he's focusing on home games. I think maybe there's something in. Anyway, the point is, I tweeted him. I asked him if he fancied coming out of retirement. He didn't say yes or no, but he did like the tweet. So who knows? Who knows?
So Joe of Marler, please come back. Even if it's just for the autumn international.
Swan song. We didn't get a chance to clap you off the pitch. Have a little swan song. We're in dire straits at the moment. Come back.
We want to show our appreciation.
Exactly. Exactly. This is not pressure. This is not pressure. We respect your decision to retire, but we want to give you a send off.
Having said all that, we do completely, fully respect your decision to choose how you live your own life. But
just choose to do it from the 25th of November onwards.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Joe,
Please.
that'd be awesome.
But anyway, we'll see. I suspect nothing there is going to change. The squad has been announced now, but how great would that be? Anyway, you were changing tact when I so rudely
I was changing
interjected.
tact. Just on a sort of. Right, it depends what viewpoint you're coming from to whether it's lighthearted. But did you see sort of Freddie Burns at the weekend for Bath had a bit of a shocker?
Oh, yes.
What was your take on that?
Well,
there is a slightly wider point here. But...
What do you mean, what's my take on it? Like, what an idiot.
Yeah, there was, but equally. So with me, I was like, look, idiot mistake. But it happened. I don't think he needs to be lionised that much. Yeah, he was silly not to do that. He had one of those days. I think we move on. I don't think it's a mistake he'll make again. And he was in the wrong. Let's not get it. But I don't think he needs to be villainised for it. We've all had one of those days.
Is he being villainised? Everything I've heard has suggested he's been given loads of support, and everyone's saying, "Don't worry, it happens." Just get back on the horse.
I know Jerry Guscott put the knife in a bit, but then Jerry Guscott will put the knife in anyone, in fairness. So,
I mean, okay, put it a different way. If that was George Ford and it was a World Cup quarter-final and as a result England got knocked out of the World Cup, would you be saying, "Oh, don't worry, it happens"?
I'd never speak to him again.
Right,
I don't speak to him a huge amount at the moment, in fairness. But no, I get the point. But actually, and I think that was my wider point.
You're a professional player. You're paid a lot of money to do your job, and you have fans that pay a lot of money to support you, and that resulted in a loss. So, yes, these things happen, and yes, it probably won't happen again, but it shouldn't have happened in the first place. Why is your mind even on celebrating and kissing your shirt and pointing at your wife in the crowd and all that sort of stuff before you've scored the try? I'm not going to. I'm not too worried about it myself.
The biggest surprise there will be realising that he's suddenly got a wife out of nowhere. I think that'll be the biggest surprise to him.
But do you know what I mean? Like, what I personally, I don't think it's even a thing that needs to be discussed. It was kind of, yeah. If I was a fan, I'd probably be fuming. But yes, these things happen, but they shouldn't.
They shouldn't. But do you think then, if Ashton starts, he gets a breakthrough against South Africa? Do you think he's less likely to do the Ash splash now?
I don't. Does he still do that a lot?
I don't really know. I think so.
I mean, looking at his try scoring record, I think you have to say that he knows what he's doing. I mean, Danny Kerr likes a bit of that as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think, look, do whatever you want, as long as it doesn't result in you dropping the ball.
Well, that's exactly it.
Like, if he wants to do the Ash splash, I'm okay with it, as long as he touches the ball down. If he does it and doesn't touch the ball down, then he's going to get, and rightly so, abused for it.
Yeah. Because the thing about Freddie Burns, I think he wasn't trying to be a dick. He wasn't trying to, do a somersault and put the ball down acrobatically. He was overcome with emotion.
Come on.
It just missed the kick straight in front of the post. And then he had a chance to redeem himself.
No, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. He's a fly half, at the top of his game. How are you not aware that you're being chased down? Not buying it. You can't call him a great player and then say, he was overcome by emotion. Like what?
It was in Europe. No, overcome by emotion. Let's not. I may have over dramatized that.
We're talking about this. We've talked about this for way. We've given it far too much airtime. Like he was an idiot.
He was.
Bottom line, he was an idiot, and he's cost his team the game. And you deal with it. A lot of people will rightly be very disappointed with you, and move on.
Right. Well. Let's move on. I see. I've angered you.
There it is.
I think I may be bringing up some repressed memories there. So
hey, I've never done that.
You can tell me about that another time.
Never dropped a ball.
Okay.
Never played rugby, but
yeah. What's rugby?
Okay, so I mean, while we're on Europe, I mean, there were some equally impressive things on a positive note in terms of results. Newcastle, sitting bottom of the table in the Premiership, went out to Toulon.
That's a hell of a win.
I know Toulon haven't been playing their best rugby, but nevertheless, Newcastle haven't been playing their best either, and they went out there and won. And I don't know if you saw any of it or if you watched any highlights, but Toulon had a kick in the last 5 minutes to win the game. And
I know this.
And they went for the corner because they wanted the bonus point.
We spoke about last week. We spoke about this last week. Take the points.
I mean, that's as bad as dropping the ball over the line. Like, what? On what planet is that the right call?
Yeah. I completely agree. Take the points.
I mean, I'd be fining people for that. I mean, that's why you can't have co-captains. I don't know if they do, but you need one person to blame for that.
It's I can't believe it.
And it's not even one of those, we'd all be saying it was amazing if they'd actually gone through and scored the try. Even if I was a Toulon fan in that situation, watching the game and they did that and they scored the try, of course I'd be happy with the win and the bonus point. I'd still be fuming that they didn't take the points.
Yeah,
because there isn't another scenario that more clearly says you have to take the points here. It's not even a building a score issue. It's you've got 5 minutes left in the game and a kick will win the game.
I can't believe they did that. And then again,
so unless the kicker was injured or something, and he's like, look, I can't do it. My knee's buggered, or my ankle's gone. Unless there was something like that, which I'm sure we'd know about if there was. No, it's just huge error, and it cost them the game, and I think rightly so. You're going to make a stupid decision like that, then you deserve to lose the game, and that's not to take anything away from Newcastle, who were obviously in a position to win the game if they hadn't conceded the 3 points, and they didn't. So Well done to them. The other one, of course, a second from bottom, I think, in the Premiership was Worcester, who did they do? They went out and who did Worcester beat?
I can't remember. I can't remember.
Was it Lyon or was it Montpellier or?
Mate, I'm not sure. It was in the sort of Champions Cup or whatever. Well, not the Champions Cup, the sort of second tier Europe one, wasn't it?
Yes. We'll try and find that out in the next few minutes.
So the Europe thing that has interested me, that piqued my interest, was watching Leinster's absolute destruction of Wasps. And you suddenly see these Irish players come back who've been well rested and just looked immense. And again, and it's probably too late, so we don't necessarily want to dwell on this too much, but it really shows the difference. The English players who are playing week in, week out, even looking at our injury count, the Irish don't have that because of the central contract. Is it time England look at that central contract model? So you can rest our players more, so you can have them available, you can have them fresh, going into Six Nations, going into World Cup. Players absolutely fresh, top of their game, peak fitness, rather than having a season of being absolutely battered and maybe playing at sort of 85%.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, what are your thoughts? Because I know you, previously when we've spoken, you have said that you think it doesn't always allow for full competition.
I 100% don't think that it does. I mean, how can you, as a non-centrally contracted player, genuinely believe that you have a chance when the person that you're up against isn't playing because they're being rested, because they're an international player? Like, how do you prove yourself against someone that you're not actually physically competing against? You know,
so
Johnny said you're a fly half. You're trying to break in. You want to be the next Johnny Sexton. But Johnny Sexton's not going anywhere because he's centrally contracted, so he gets rested for everything except the big games. You're out there busting a gut week in, week out because you're not centrally contracted, and so the opportunities don't exist for you.
So here's where I think you can make it work. So Johnny Sexton, I think, is a different player because he's an absolute superstar. He's a complete rock star of the Irish team. So how I think you can make it work is getting that balance between having your rock stars centrally contracted, having your likes of Owen Farrell, Maro Itoje, Billy, having them not necessarily saying, centrally contract a squad of people, centrally contract, maybe 10 players, 10 key players who are realistically going to be picked. If they're fit, they're playing.
But then, okay, so Maro came on the scene in the last sort of few years.
Yeah.
So when he appears the first time, but you've already got someone else in his position centrally contracted, how does he...
Well, not necessarily. You don't necessarily. It's only if they're rock stars you have them centrally contracted. So you're not saying every position has to have a centrally contracted player.
It's not rugby. That doesn't sound like rugby to me. Rugby's about competition. It's constant. I
still think you can have that competition.
A good international side is built on competition. England at its best, under Eddie Jones, there was competition in every single position. There weren't really any names where you would say no one has a chance to take that spot. Yes, there were one or two, but only until someone came along that you started going, well, hang on a second.
But I mean, I think my argument is there's still certain
it's the rest. It's the rest.
If Billy's fit, he plays, so you can centrally contract him. But that doesn't mean that there's other number eights don't get a chance to come into the squad.
No, they come into the squad, but they never get a chance to be the superstar. They never get a chance to become the starting eight.
But do they get the chance to be the starting eight if Billy's fit?
Well, right on form right now, no. But that's not. But, okay, well, let's say Ben Morgan, who plays now. We don't know if he will, but let's say Ben Morgan starts at 8, and he's just huge. He bosses every game. He gets man of the match in all 4 of the autumn internationals, and at the end of it, we're all just going, "Oh my god, how have we not had this guy in the team for the last 2 years?" What happens then? Do we then say, "But as good as you've been, Billy's back"?
Yeah, but we would do that anyway.
But would
if
we?
Billy comes back, I think if Billy comes back and starts playing, so centrally contracted players doesn't mean they don't play for the club. They still have to play for the club, and so Johnny Sexton still has to turn out for his club sometimes. And if he's turning out having shockers, then he's not necessarily going to play. It's just
okay. So if that happens, does he then get his central contract dropped? Does he get fired?
Yes, I think it's a 1 year thing.
I don't know. It's all sounding a bit too much like American football. It's changing the rules. I'm not a fan. I get the benefits in terms of resting your key players, but I think the solution is that the RFU, World Rugby, maybe need to have a rule in place about the number of games that a professional rugby player can play in a season, or something more.
That I agree with as well. That's for player welfare,
and essentially force clubs to rest players for player welfare, full stop, not just for international, which would result in, I think what you probably would have is a rule that said you can play a maximum of X number of matches, and I guess, how do you do it? Internationals, maybe there are extra games allowed for internationals fixtures, or because what you don't want is clubs using up their players' allocation before an international comes around, and then England being told you can't use him because he's already played his quota.
Oh yeah. No, of course you'd have to do that, like a club versus international. Yeah, you'd have to do that.
But I think if ultimately the kind of the end game with central contracts is to give players time off so they don't get injured, which is I think what you're.
Well, just so they can be at the peak to their fitness. So because these international players, I think these top international players, and I'm not saying overly centrally contract. I am saying pick your absolute superstars and just centrally contract them, so you have a backbone of your international squad. So for argument's sake, would I centrally contract a George Ford? No, I wouldn't, because I don't think that he is the out-and-out option at 10. Would I centrally contract Owen Farrell? 100%, because I believe he's on the pitch regardless.
Yeah,
would I centrally contract?
You get into
that's what
I think saying. You get into muddy water.
Of course you do. You get into muddy water either way.
With who to centrally contract, who not centrally contract, who falls out of form and therefore needs to lose their contract. Who's coming in that's looking great that perhaps should be. I don't like it.
I know I do know what you mean, and it's not as easy as I'm making out, because you can't necessarily say centrally contract.
I think as well. I think we're too big. Well, the player pool is too big.
Possibly.
I think one of the reasons it works in Ireland is because there are only really 4 teams to make up the international side, and so it's easier to say these are the ones that we're going to centrally contract.
Yeah, I mean that's true. There is probably, and in actual fact, weirdly enough, a downfall of English rugby could be the amount of competition in positions.
Maybe not sticking with the same guys week in, week out. Well, not week in, week out, but and just saying these are the ones we're putting our feet. I mean, but I guess maybe this takes us back to the whole Eddie Jones and the stuff we don't know. Is he thinking, I have a core that I am sticking with regardless? And George
I still
Ford
think you need to
at 10 and Owen Farrell at 12 is one of them.
Yeah, I'm not.
So the problem with centrally contracting players is that you take a Johnny Sexton and you go, well, he's amazing. He hasn't played for ages because he's so good. We want to rest him, but he gets selected, and because he hasn't played for ages, you're kind of crossing your fingers and hoping that he's still going to be as good as he was last time.
He still plays. It's not as if he never plays.
No,
he still plays,
but a lot less.
Plays a lot less. Yeah. So he still plays to prove that he's still in form.
You've not convinced me on this occasion. I'm sure you'll try again, but I'm not buying it right now. Guys listening, I'm sure you will also be torn. So please get in touch and let us know what you think about centrally contracting players and whether you think it's something we should do. And if not, like me, what are your reasons? Do your reasons differ from mine? Let us know what you think.
Yeah, and mate, it's not a bad thing. It's like it's like with Eddie Jones' current squad. You're just not quite there yet. You're just not quite got the right answer yet. But don't worry, mate. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help guide you.
Okay.
And that's why I think Eddie's going to start using me.
Try harder.
Yes, I will try harder. I will come up with a big argument. I'm still on a high.
Worcester, by the way, it was Stade Francais that they beat.
Oh, good win. Well done.
So yeah, a great win for them out there. What else? I've kind of got so caught up in the squad announcement stuff, which, by the way, it doesn't look. When we picked our 23 just now, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I don't hate it.
Nah, and a lot of them missed players from positions are actually injuries.
Well,
like even if everyone was fit, the big names missed out. The likes of Don Armans, the likes of Danny Cipriani, would they necessarily be starting? Possibly not. No. Anyway,
this is very true. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And this takes us back to what we were saying last week and what we said in response to some negative feedback that we got. Yes, England have lost 5 out of their last 6 games, and that's not a position that we ever want to be in. But they did win the previous 18. They won their last game.
We're currently on a winning streak.
Call it a dead rubber, call it whatever you want. But the reality is they won their last game. So they are on a winning streak, and we simply cannot judge their form without seeing them play again. I think what's important to point out, because we have had some more negative feedback. We were accused of not taking on board the comments of people who don't give us positive feedback, and I think just to reiterate what we said last week, it's not that we don't agree that England were in terrible form. Because they were. Yes, we do have rose-tinted glasses on. Yes, there's a lot of wishful thinking goes into these podcast episodes that we put out. And we do believe that England have the ability to become good enough to win the World Cup.
We do believe. I believe they will win the World Cup.
Well, we do, and we believe that they will, and we will do so until they don't. Or they do. Say that. But yeah, you have to say, look, they were on a losing streak. They won a game. Let's see where they go from here. Because we can't judge on what's not happened. We can only judge on what does happen. So I think it wasn't that we weren't agreeing with some of the comments that were relating to England previously. It was that we're saying, well, look, let's forget about what's happened before. Because if we're if we're willing to look at past performances as a reflection of the future, then why don't we go a little bit further back and look at the 18 games that they did win? And we're saying let's just see what happens in the autumn after a bit of a rest and hopefully a change in approach. And with any luck, we will see the England of old, and not that old obviously, but the 18-game win streak England, and that's obviously what we're hoping for. So. Yeah, I think withhold judgment is the message here. Not that we disagree with anyone that doesn't agree with us, because we know that a lot of people don't agree with us.
But a lot of the time people disagree, and rightly so, because a lot of the time we get stuff wrong. But
yeah, like with central contracts.
Well, exactly. We don't have central contracts in place. We're wrong, but because they should be in place. But look. England rugby, it's starting again soon. What are we, 2 weeks? 2 weeks on Saturday, isn't it? And then that's our first game. I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's going to be...
We still have great players. It's going to be a big match against a team, probably the form team in the world at the moment.
Yeah, we've got... So, yes, Springboks, and then the following week, New Zealand. Both of those games will be coming to you semi-live in a way that only we do. As far as I'm aware. Dan promises not to be in the pub and to then say, oh, sorry, mate, I'm in the pub. Is it all right if I just record outside? Because we obviously want you guys to be able to hear us. But I'm away for the following
Dan semi-promises.
Dan promises. Otherwise, we'll find someone else. Japan, I'm away. I'm in Houston, and also I'm away for the Australia game. But that's just before I come back. So what we might do is the Japan game, we probably won't do a live episode. We'll do something in the week. The Australia game will probably bring you something in the days following the game rather than a live episode. But stay tuned. We'll keep you posted. But certainly the first two, the two biggest games, South Africa followed by New Zealand, semi-live games, aka the style of the England Rugby Pod. And on that note, guys, thank you for listening. Please keep listening. Spread the word. Do rate us and review us. Obviously, we want 5 stars, but be honest and give us feedback. And more importantly, actually, than any of that, is get in touch. Let us know what you think. Let us know your views and opinions. And if you've got any questions, you can get hold of us on social media at England Rugby Pod. You can email us englandrugbypod@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to respond to any questions that you have in our next episode. But for now, let's keep tuning in, and we'll catch you next week, guys.
Thanks, guys.